Hi, welcome again to Leadership Dialogue Podcast. I'm Chinedu Obi. While the series on political games going on ahead of the 2027 elections continues, recall that in our last episode we talked about political ideologies and what Nigerians should be looking for when it comes to electing who governs or presides over a multi-ethnic country like Nigeria ahead of the 2027 elections. But this time around, we would ride this conversation on the latest baby on the political blog. Well, the coalition movement bettered, you know, will I call it a potpourri of politicians, big politicians in the Nigerian political space coming together to unseat the ruling All Progressives Congress under the auspices of the Africa Democratic Congress, ADC. But what we saw also is that the former ADC chairman, Raf Musi, also stepped aside, handed the seat over to the former Senate President, David Mark, to preside over the leadership of that party. One thing that is significant about the African Democratic Congress is that it's something that is bringing a coalition movement underneath it. But aside that, it is also important to note that in that movement under the ADC are prominent politicians who have ruled Nigeria, ruled states in Nigeria at one time or the other, from Rauf Arubeshola to former Governor Erufai, to former Governor of Anambra State Peter Obi, and presidential candidates on the Labour Party in 2023 elections. Also prominent in that coalition is the former Vice President of Nigeria and former presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the 2019 and 2023 elections, Atiku Abubakar. Many other big whips are also involved in this race, but one thing is significant: unseating the ruling All Progressives Congress and perhaps forming a more formidable force, or maybe I would say a way of helping Nigerians, so to speak, according to feelers, to, get out of what is perceived as hardship in recent times. Well, we shall be delving into this conversation. We need to also scrutinize the agenda of this coalition movement and vis-a-vis the current realities of Nigeria. Is this what Nigerians should be looking out for? Should Nigerians further interrogate the motives or ideologies of these birds coming together? Or should Nigerians believe them outrightly? Or believe also that it might be the Messiah, just as we saw in 2015, that would save Nigerians from the shackles of poverty and maybe you could call it destruction? Well, my guest is here in the studio. He is the National Chairman, National Rescue Movement, Prince Dr. Chinedu Obi. Good to have you join me.
Thank you, Odinaka. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. Well, we shall be delving into that conversation with Dr. Obi after this break. Remember, I'm Chinedu Obi. We'll see you again.
As a people and members of LJE Green Community, we share a deeper commitment to protect not only our environment, but also the rights and dignity of all individuals within our reach. Every day, we are faced with responsibility to uphold human dignity. If you see something happening around you, do not turn blind eye. We must act because that's where our role as ambassadors come in. Being an ambassador doesn't require any superpower. It requires awareness, compassion, and the willingness to speak up. If you see something, say something. It's our duty to stand up for justice and amplify the voices of those who can't speak for themselves. One voice can spark a movement, and together we can create a nation that values human life. You can reach us on 070 52368821 or visit our website at www.ljenigeria.org to report a violation. Remember, if you see something, say something.
Well, it's still Leadership Dialogue Podcast. Remember that you can be part of this conversation. All you need to do is like, subscribe, and follow our pages on social media, on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, as well as YouTube. The handle still remains at LJE Nigeria. Before we went on the break, I told you that my guest is the national chairman of the National Rescue Movement, Prince Dr. Chinedu Obi. Well, let's delve into the conversation. First of all, Nigerians would like to know, is your party involved in the coalition movement?
The National Rescue Movement is not involved in the current coalition. But as a party, we're also studying the situation to see how we can harvest like minds and also provide something to Nigeria that also sounds like the coalition you're looking for.
Is that not deviating from what appears to be the norm? Because it just appears that the coalition movement is something put together by opposition party members, from the Labour Party to the SDP, and the list goes on. So why is your party different or being defiant?
There are 19 political parties in Nigeria. What you find in the coalition you're talking about now are just politicians from some of these parties. You do not have, like in the case of 2015, where you had political parties come together and evolve under one umbrella called the APC. You remember that exercise was the SCN, the ALPP,
The CPC,
the CPC, a faction of ABGA. I was part of that faction from ABGA, which just took us to the coalition. So that came in the form of political parties with structures enveloping into one coalition. The difference with this is that these are politicians from different angles.
is an individual
Coming together in this coalition.
movement.
So I drew your attention to other political parties because I feel that in the coming days, you might see a coalition of political parties.
So the coalition movement is not the ultimate thing here.
Yeah, so
So Nigerians should not rejoice.
we should rejoice. The reason we should rejoice is that in the last 1 month, there was a narration of one party system, and a lot of people were sensitive about it. But the story of coalition now is beginning to give the hope of to Nigerians that will probably have a choice.
Are we seeing it? Are we seeing something that looks like a hope or a revival of what is perceived to be dormant opposition parties?
The reason I said that is I have always asked coalition for what? I asked you earlier, when will Nigerians themselves do their own coalition? Because for me, if coalition is just to grab power, it doesn't make sense. Coalition will be put together around some ideas, alternatives, conventions, things that you can sell to Nigeria that can take us away from the situation.
So you believe in your heart that the coalition movement is just about one thing: taking power away from the APC.
From the experience,
It's a retaliatory movement.
From the experience we have in 2015, the coalition I talked about came and took power from the PDP. All of us were very happy that once we good breeders to bad rubbish, because PDP looked to us like something that was not good for everyone. But I'm sure that Nigerians that took that decision now are beginning to think that was a big mistake to have both PDP at the time we replaced them with the 8 years of disaster of Buhari and the 2 years addition that I hear sometimes the APC will tell you, oh, we inherited the deck government. A government run by its government. It's now that Buhari is no longer APC. The narrative now is Buhari finished Nigeria. It was APC government. So the 10 years of the last decade, the mess we found is given to Nigeria by the APC government. So, which is why I think that beyond our own coalition as political actors, I want to see Nigerians themselves angry enough to form their own coalition. How do Nigerians form the coalition? But in this coalition, to vote on election day. So it's not this noise of the same old faces telling us the same old stories that we're used to. Can they look across the other parties, look at the characters in there, and choose a virgin party and vest it with power so that we will be sending one signal? And I have said, I had an argument with someone the other time that my excitement about this coalition is that Nigerians can find a way to change the government, even for the sake of changing, so that we can create a psyche in the mind of every Nigerian leader that if you don't perform, we'll change you in the next 4 years. If we do that repeatedly, maybe we might begin to see persons who will sit and know that power belongs to the people. If I don't do well in the next election, it becomes a referendum and they take me out.
But it does appear also that the All Progressives Congress has become really powerful, that for it to be unseated, powerful politicians, perceived powerful politicians in Nigeria must come together. Now, in the coalition, I have some prominent politicians that you know. Labour Party, for instance, Peter Obi, commanding the southeastern Nigeria, of course, has the support of a lot of people from the south. Outperformed himself in Lagos State, for instance, and then also has some good support from northern Nigeria. Aside from Peter Obi, you have a Rotimi Ameche, former governor of Rivers State, former minister of transportation. We also have a David Mark coming from the North Central region. We have an Atiku Abubakar from the Northeast region, a former vice president of Nigeria, who during his time was known for his great performance in picking good heads that brought about even the debt relief of Nigeria, under the Paris Club arrangements. And then you have an El-Rufai. During his time as minister of the FCT, he was known for his good work as a governor of Kaduna State. He also did very well. And you have a Rauf Arebeshola from, the southwest region, coming together to say enough is enough. We have never had it this bad in Nigeria. In the last few years, Nigerians have moved from 50% to as low as 20 to 10% when it comes to poverty index across the globe. And for them, it is high time they correct their mistakes. So this is not a coalition of people coming together for the sake of taking over power. But for them, it's something that has to do with correction of a previous mistake. Now, when you have somebody who the Southeasterners, for instance, believe is Mr. Revolution or Mr. Integrity, that's in the person of a former governor of Anambra State, Peter Obi, in this coalition, does it not give it credence?
Let me correct a fresh impression before I delve into the question, which is the Southeasterners seeing Peter as revolution. I think that's the mindset of the average Nigerian. The average Nigerian, you don't make it a Southeast thing. The Southeast is one block that votes. Go and check their pattern of voting across Nigeria in the whole of election. There was a time they voted massively for Atiku. There was a time they voted massively for Yar'Adua. They voted massively for Obasanjo. They choose their candidates. Peter only became lucky.
And in 2023, they chose a Peter.
Each time they choose, they go among, they look for the best, and they're not emotional with their votes. Unlike other areas where people look at your faces, because Peter became just that round peg and round hole for them at that point. But so don't reduce Peter to a Southeast thing. The Obedience are not Southeasterners. And it shocked you. Peter won Tinubu in Lagos. Lagos is not a Southeast territory. Peter won votes in Nasarawa, in some other places you would not have expected. So Peter was a Nigerian revolution. Don't reduce it to the Southeast. Now, having discussed that, it would be wrong for anybody to take the coalition you've mentioned their names for granted. These are heavy names. These are heavy weights. What I'm saying is, Our politics should move away from names, heavyweights, and walk around ideology. That's the level of politics I want us to be talking about in Nigeria. Because what has heavyweight politics done to us over time? Rubbish. We've not gotten that thing we wanted, which is why I was talking about coalition of Nigerians. Can Nigerians know that politics is such a big business that should not be left in the hand of politicians and begin to be dispassionate? Before we entered the studio, I was asking you a choice of an MD. We're looking for the MD of the country. We should not be emotional about it. It should not be partisanship. It should not be about political parties. It should not be about tribes. It should not be about religion. It's about who do we give leadership and we can go to bed and sleep. And we won't have this kind of things around the country. We won't have price of food go too high. We won't be the poverty capital of the world. That's what I expect Nigerians to do. And I don't think Nigerian politicians should be the one to set the agenda. I want Nigerians to set the agenda. And how do they do it? I gave you the statistics of our votes in Nigeria today. INEC says we have approximately 94 million registered voters. Maybe before the next election, could have another 10, 20 million join that number. If we have 100 million Nigerians deciding who becomes our president, we will not leave our hands in the hands of politicians. If we do, to the extent that we can go to all the parties and see which one provides the answer to our problem. I'm not one of these big names, because these big names have not done something we can refer to.
But Nigerians can only take power or perhaps take over the politics of the country when it is intricately involved in party system, of which we know many young Nigerians who apparently form over 60 to 65% of the voter strength in the country, as it were, are not even members of political party. And as of today, many political parties are not built on ideology.
The parties are built on ideology, but Nigerians are chasing the names. There's no political party that does not have an ideology.
What is the ideology of your party?
Our party is built on an ideology of rule of law for peace, productivity, and shared prosperity. Why rule of law? There's nothing you do in any system that will not be based on rules. The madness you find across our country today is because we do things the way we like them. We don't stick to the things that we have put together as things that we want to.
How well have you performed in screaming that ideologies to the ears of Nigerians?
We do, but
is it just about having a political party, having a slogan, this is what we start so, and then we do it for every election cycle?
You see, I told you I have a media background. The people I hold responsible for this question you asked now is the media. The media concentrates on APC, PDP, the ones that can have access to our money. They don't even remember to tell Nigerians that there are 17 other political parties with different ideologies that they can look into. And how do you, a national rescue movement with an APC that spent how many trillion, how was the budget? How? So Nigerians, we need to move away, realizing that political business is their business and not politicians' business, and begin to look through to see. And I'll give you an instance. Nigerians tried something in 2023 when they identified Peter and refused to look at Peter from PDP or APC. Went to Labour Party that was unknown before that time. You saw the performance they got a governor in Abia State. In your judgment, is Oti doing very well? I'm not his spokesperson, but he's doing very well.
And that's from your prism. I know if I go on the street right now and ask the same questions, perhaps the answers will not.
If you ask Abia, I'm not from Abia State. I've never met Oti one-on-one. I'm talking about based on feedback. I'm within the political system. He's also not a member of my party. But I'm telling you that the people can throw away all these big names, choose Nigerians that have done very well in their public life, business life, in their career, and get professionals, technocrats.
But in Nigeria, as of today, independent politicians do not thrive. However, what we see
are not as an independent
they are individuals running under political parties. No, I am saying this because you have cited examples of Governor Oti, of
what I'm saying to you by that message.
But when you look at it, Governor Oti is under a political party.
That's what I'm saying.
That does not even have a headway as of today because of the numerous court issues it is involved.
That's a different argument. But the point I want to make is that the concentration on the so-called parties you see in front of you should be de-emphasized. There are so many other options. Can we find our candidates in those options and we can grow from there? That's the point I'm making.
Well, we'll continue this conversation right after this break. To stay.
Nigeria is at a turning point. Young people are rising, demanding change. If you believe in justice, strong leadership, and real reform, then it's time to take a stand.
At LJE Nigeria, we're not just observers, we're builders. We're tackling leadership deficits, advocating for justice reforms, and driving economic advancements for all.
As a volunteer, you won't just watch, you will be a part of it. You will gain access to powerful seminars, conferences, and mentorships from professionals who believe in your potential.
No matter who you are, whether you're a student, an entrepreneur, a professional, or someone who cares, there's a place for you here.
Network with passionate change makers, build skills, and step into leadership.
Join LJE Nigeria today. Let's lead with truth. Let's build with courage. Let's rise for Nigeria. Become an LJE volunteer today and be the change Nigeria needs. Follow all our social media handles for more details.